Okay, how about that for a beginning? There we go. I haven't been speaking to you on a regular basis. Sorry for that. I've had technical issues. Most of the time, I have to do this and I got to do that. And oh my God, by the time I do it, it's 4 o'clock and that's too late. So I like to connect with you guys somewhere between 11 o'clock and 2. And if I can't get in that window, then I just don't do it. Anyway, so I've got my, as you can see, this is my whole world right here. Let's see how I can do one of these things. See how that works. Hey, there we go. So now you see this in a bigger screen. I want to show you something I came across a few days ago. Let's see, where is it? Right here. This is really very interesting. There's a password cracker, AI, called PassGAN. PassGAN. Well, they took some, you get noticed by your bank, hey, you got to change your password, you need more digits or this and that, and you need a special character, and it's so annoying, you want to just, and it's hard to remember these things, and, you almost need a notepad now, because you got so many things with passwords, and everybody wants you to use a different password, and oh my God, don't use this, and don't do that, and that, and that. Anyway, these guys took. So the question is, how much is enough? So they took, very cool, 15,680,000 passwords and scrambled them up. And then they used their AI, artificial intelligence, computer, super duper whatever, to figure out what your password is. So I got arrows here that indicates that if you got 10 characters, if your password is 10 characters wide, and you use numbers, upper and lowercase letters, and symbols, and any combination of whatever that you want, the AI computer, it would take them 5 years to crack into your bank account or whatever account. 5 years. And if you added just one more character, it ends up to be 356 years. Holy mackerel! That's at least 2 lifetimes, right? So if you have numbers and you got letters and you got uppercase and you got lowercase, and you have at least one special character in that 11 number of characters, it would take 365 years to crack your password and take all your money, or take all your identity, whatever, so that's pretty cool. Next time I'm asked to change my password, because that's another thing they want you to do, which is very annoying. I worked in a bank where for me to get into the bank, just to log in the morning, everybody's got to log in, right? And every 90 days you had to change your password. I said, Floyd, save me. I'm not, every 90 days. How about every 6 months? Give me a break. Every year is torturous enough. And here it takes, 5 years to break my password, and I got to change it every 90 days. What's wrong with that picture? Yeah, come on. So next time I'm asked, actually, because of this very interesting chart. Like if you have a 6-digit password and you've got upper and lowercase letters and upper and lowercase letters. If you just have lowercase letters, oh my God. If you have upper and lowercase letters and add numbers, it can crack your password instantly. And if you have a special character in there also, it'll crack your password in 4 seconds. If you got six characters in your password. If you have 7 and you go all the way across here, it'll take you 6 minutes. Then it's 7 hours. Then it's 2 weeks. And then it goes to 5 years, and it goes to 356 years. And if you had 12 characters in there, which you're really a glutton for punishment, it would take you 30,000 years. That's long enough. Oh, my God. We could go into hyperspace, speed of light, and come back, 5,000 years later, and they still haven't got 10 cents out of my payroll account, whatever. Anyway, but 11 characters, 356 years. Holy crap. That's a long time. And that's for a computer to crack it. It's not just some schmuck typing in, characters. This is AI computer, using, a really fast computer. Because fast is a 4-letter word, so I don't know what that means, but anyway. 5 years is what you get for 10 characters. That's a bank. I don't know whether it was Apple also, but my bank said, you got to go to 10 characters. You must have an uppercase letter. You must have at least one lowercase letter. You must have at least one number, and you have to have at least one symbol. Exclamation point, point sign. I forget everything that you got. The 1 through 0 on the top, and you hit shift. So you got the @ sign, you got the exclamation points, you got the pound, the $sign, the % sign, the little caret that's up, the ampersand, the little star thing over there above 8. I think that's the symbols that they are talking about. Anyway, my bank told me, change your password to all the characteristics on the very right-hand column of this chart. And 10. That's the number of... So that's what I did. And hopefully they don't ask me to do it again. Anyway, so I thought that would be interesting for you. I posted that to Facebook before this broadcast, so you'd be able to see that. I have this, the other thing that we need to look at. Look at this. Starship is ready for launch. All they're waiting is for the license. The feds inspect everything. They are everywhere. And the Starship, Elon Musk and all his engineering prowess with all his buddies, engineering talent, which is unbelievable. Remember, these are the people that land the booster back. I mean, it's like, holy crap. That's pretty good. I mean, that's like a 200-foot cylinder that's 12 feet in diameter. I mean, God, that's like the size of your bedroom 200 feet tall, and that blasted up, the payload package, and the second stage, rocket apparatus. So the booster gets all that up, and then the second stage takes off. And then this thing flips and comes back to the launch pad. Either the launch pad that it took off from, or they have if the blast off required just so much fuel that it couldn't leave enough in the booster rocket when it shuts off the engines to get back to where it blasted off from. So since the fuel situation is limited because it was a heavy payload or whatever, then they put a geosynchronized stationary platform out in the ocean somewhere, offshore, in such a location that the booster has enough fuel to land properly on this huge platform that's in a geosynchronous stationary position, the coordinates of which were uploaded into the computers of the spaceship. Spaceship, can you imagine? I'm using the word spaceship. And yeah, look, there's a picture of that sucker. That is one monstrous. If you could see, I don't think there's a person here. No, this smoke is fuel is liquid oxygen and I think liquid methane. So this is venting, and it's so cold that immediately condenses moisture in the ambient air, and you see a cloud. It's a big cloud. I mean, this thing is like really big. This is the biggest booster and the payload package you can see, and including a second stage fuel pack. You can see the separation line right here. So this is the second stage stuff, and this white is all the first stage stuff. And when that blasts off, that's gonna make that little stand a little crispy, because it's gonna be really hot when you got 33 Merlin engines. 33 Merlin engines. They all start and ignite at the same time. The last time they did a booster test, which, let's just do a booster test. I mean, all the preparation, the time, and the pumping of the liquid oxygen. I mean, this stuff is, they don't give it away. It's like, it takes a lot of energy to compress oxygen and chill it to such an extent that oxygen becomes a liquid. Oh, geez, that's like amazing. It's not ice, it's liquid oxygen. And it's like, minus 180 degrees Fahrenheit. I forget what I would call it the boiling point of liquid oxygen, if I remember any minor piece of physical chemistry that I took a few years ago. God, oh my God. Whew. It's like almost 50 years ago. Wow. Whew. That's a long time ago. God darn. Well, it's not quite 50. It might be 49. But it's almost a half a century. Hey, how about that? And Jimmy's still kicking here in Boca Raton. doing all my technology stuff. My little studio I handmade, this stuff is taped on, and I got, I've got good equipment. I have to say, my main computer over here, which is it's like Jimmy's computer. Elon Musk has got his computer, well, Jimmy's got his. I mean, this is like a little nothing ball compared to what those guys are fooling around with. I mean, the computer that they're now putting in the Model Y Tesla cars is reportedly 3 times faster or 4 times faster than this puppy. And this puppy is... pretty much the latest and the greatest from Apple MacBook Air. So there's no fans up here. This program that I use from eCam Live, ECAMM Live.com, is, uses up a lot of energy. On my prior MacBooks, the temperature of the processor, and there is an app. There are apps that can actually measure the surface temperature. There's a little thing on there that measures the temperature of the processor and each core, whatever that means. It's not like an Apple core. It's like a little, like a compartment. I don't know. I actually don't know what a core is, and how the programmer would, write their program where you put stuff in a core. And that's, I think, what's going on there. So if you got 16 cores, then when you're writing your application and you do math, then you can take the result and pop it in one of those cores and let it sit there, because the application is then going to go do something else, and it says, "Whoops, what was the answer to that question? It's in core number 3. Go get it," and then divide it into whatever I got over in this hand. I mean, it's. I was I'm embarrassed to say, I was a coder, what they call a coder today. I was. I'm not going to say one of the first, because there were folks before me, a lot of folks. But I was a coder back, let's say, 48 years ago, something like that. Let's just say 45 years ago. So, and I coded in COBOL, COBOL, COBOL. Common Business Oriented Language. So the CO is common, the B is business, the O is oriented. Damn it! I lost one of my live feeds. Well, I'm going to continue on because it appears that my other live feed is still cooking. And then I can go back and take a peek and see how the audio. I think the audio is set up pretty good. I don't think I'm over-modulating too much. I have, a little background noise here with the Fox, just watching stuff. Bitcoin is up over 30,000 now. It lost, half its value. It went from 60,000 down to 16,000. Some people bought it at 40 and 30, I know it's, geez, it's just coming back, I don't know how that's a true gamble, because there's no asset, when you buy Apple stock, let's just You can see how old-fashioned I am. Apple stock, who the hell was that? Well, I tell you what, it's the largest corporation, at least in the United States. If it's the largest in the world, I don't know how big other companies are around the world, but Apple is over 2 trillion in size. 2 trillion? Can you imagine all those zeros? Woo! 12 zeros? 2 trillion. Oh, God. It's a lot of dollars. Anyway, so if you buy a share of Apple stock, you've got a little piece of the company. But when you buy Bitcoin, there's no company. There's no, it doesn't produce a balance sheet. It doesn't file a tax return. It's total, if you're that paranoid about the U.S. government, buy gold. Gold, or go to where, go back to what people did 500 years ago. Which I'm not saying that's a bad thing to do. The Egyptians, if you just think about it, Egypt, and boy, they certainly were enamored with gold and I guess bronze, brass, precious metals, copper, zinc, platinum. I don't think they were. They had sapphires and rubies and things like that, but I don't remember the Egyptians being totally buried in diamonds. I could be very wrong about that, but anyway, so diamonds. I don't remember seeing things glittering that much. It was glittering because of gold, not glittering because of diamonds, at least. Thinking back at all the movies that I saw. Who knows? But history, writes that gold was a real big deal. And they had, their coins, gold coins. And, it wasn't, no one had a whole bunch of gold, hidden. And then they, made some coins, and the gold its value was related back to, a reserve. I think, the administration, the pharaohs, they just decided this gold coin, it's the size of, this round disc I got here. Or I have a gold coin in my little possessions here. Gold, at least one of them. Buffalo. That's my favorite. I like to collect the buffalo. So today that buffalo coin is worth around $2,000. If I see what's going on at Barney and Company, it's going to give me the number right now. Bam! That's 30-year yield is 3.63. Alrighty, Bitcoin is at 30,188. S&P 500 is 4,100 roughly. Russell 2000. You gotta go through all these I'm looking at these little spin numbers here. Come on, here we go. Gold. $2,018, up $14 today, which is like a half a percent. Silver, $25.19. I have silver, I have gold. Gold is the thing to collect, because every time you come up with a couple of $1,000 you don't need, go buy yourself a gold coin. From a reputable dealer. Let me go on my trusty phone here, and Where's my gold thing? I forget what the thing looks like. Let's see. Let's just do a search. A.
Maybe they have another disease. Maybe they have cancer. Maybe they have something building up in their body. So weight loss is
there it is. APMEX. APMEX. And there it is.
a sudden death. That's good news. That means that you and I, if we gain 5 pounds.
And this, which I just want to, here, I should do it here. You know, since we're talking about gold for a minute. So I think, so it's not ANP, it's APM. There we go. And then that's it. There's only 2 possible categories to that. And it's either APMEX or it's Associated Press Mobile. Can you imagine? I mean, you permute 3 letters and you end up with 2 different companies. All right, here we go. So I always have see in my in basket up in the upper right corner of this display here. It says I have something in my. Oops, I've got. Is there anything else? It's just 4. I've got 4 cylinders of silver coins, the American Silver Eagle, which is, let's go take a look. There it is right there. I should have a couple of them laying around here. Merrill got mad at me. I had 4 of these laying around. Silver dollars. I mean, silver dollars are really cool. There it is. You can't really see it that good here. There we go. It has an eagle on the back. And it has this beautiful dancing lady, which you can kind of get a glimpse of. Anyway, so this is what's special about this Silver American Eagle. A 20-pack, mint direct. It's sealed, and there's 20 coins in there, and it's pure silver. This is pure silver, 99.99% pure. I think it's 3 nines with silver, because silver always oxidizes, silver oxide. So by the time they do something with this is a 2021. So we have a 0 or near 0 numismatic value for the coin. I mean, there's no collector's value for the coin, like, coin collector. Now this coin, I have 2 of them. Oop. I display it out here so that for ready reference. Now this one is, let me turn the lights up a little bit. There we go. This is the year 1900. So, and this is 2023. So this is 123 years old, this coin. It was minted 120 years ago. That's like, like 5 generations. That's like unbelievable. Your grandfather, father, son, the son of that son, and that one's son. That's a long time ago. Anyway, I got one of these E pluribus unum coins. E pluribus unum is on one side, and on the other, it has typical eagle. I don't have my phone set up as a camera, but if I did, you can kind of see it right there. Not bad. And on the whoops.
Coverage map, and this is Consumer Cellular's map.
I don't see the
There's the front.
Well, that one's purple. Get the exact same coverage as the nation's leading carrier, starting at 20.
You see?
Consumer Cellular.
There you go.
If you've got a military, first responder, or law enforcement background,
So this one has about,
remember save on Epic brand.
you know, it's like 86% silver, and it's got copper and a few other things. Because this coin was in circulation. You know, a silver dollar back, 100 years ago was, can you imagine 100 years ago? It's worth, yeah. Gee, with inflation and everything. You know, this is probably, $50 maybe or something. The silver in here, anyway, this coin has numismatic value because it was minted in 1900, 123 years ago. This sucker was minted yesterday. So there's no numismatic value. Actually, it's 2021, a couple of years ago. It's got an eagle on the side. It's a little bit bigger. The thickness, it's thicker too. Looking at the edges. Maybe it's a millimeter thicker. And the size, for them to make this, they create rounds, which means that to be silver, that's 999% pure. That's not been squeezed, with this appearance on it, front and back, and the edge, whatever that's called. And it go all the way around, and it's, all set up, So, but this, the blank, that's what I was thinking of. So the blank, which is basically this thing, but it's just has a shiny face, a shiny back, and shiny edges. It's like a tube. And then they cut them, I guess, and they create these blanks, and they're all, lined up in the mint, and then it goes across into this thing, and this big press comes down, and puts, 10,000 pounds on it, and maybe a couple of those. I haven't been in the mint when they were actually creating coins from the blanks. So I understand what a blank is, from a physical chemistry standpoint. It's silver, 0.999, and the blank is exactly 1 ounce of silver, because that's the specification for the making of that particular coin. And then they have, they got hundreds of thousands of these blanks, in the vault of the mint. And they say, okay, it's time to make some coins, however they decide that. And they make 200,000 coins. Yeah. And they just released a couple of 100,000, 275,000 coins. And the coin distributors are trying to get people to buy them, because, the coin people are in the business of making money, so, they have, they've been, there are like 5 or 6 of these they're not distributors, but they're companies that can pay the mint, get the coins, then they put them in their vault, and then they schlep them. And they keep them or they schlep them. It's up to them. But anyway, that's the most recent, thing that you see on radio and TV. They're trying to hawk these coins, silver coins. But my suggestion would be Gold. Popular gold. Let's set that. America, see, here's an American Eagle Gold, isn't it? That's one of the top picks. 2,197. So $2,200 for a coin. This is my favorite right here. I'm going to touch on that. You see that? The buffalo. And it's just like the nickel, front and back. And you see here, it's 0.99949s. So because gold is almost completely inert, and inert is a word in terms of physical chemistry, it means that it doesn't react with anything. It's not. I didn't say it doesn't react with everything, because it does. With a few different, acids, for example. There's a couple of acids that lead into gold. Not many. So because nothing, like the atmosphere doesn't react with it, so that means oxygen, nitrogen, and all the other little tiny, there's things, hydrogen, and, there's like 20 different things in our atmosphere. Unless you're next to, a big plant where they're pumping, toxins in the air. Then there's more things in the air than oxygen and nitrogen and a few 100 other things. So that's why it's best to live in Idaho and get away from all the smoke from factories and stuff like that. Anyway, but getting back to gold, and the reason why they can put 0.9999 there, which is as close to 1 as you can get, which would mean 100% pure, it's not exactly pure, it's 0.999949's worth. I mean, there's not much of anything else associated with that. And that's it. In God we trust. It says 1 ounce, fine gold, $50 face value. See, there's a 50 there. On the back. Here we go. I can't expand it. Good. You see 50? And there's the 0.9999. There you go, right there. Fine gold. So these denominations on this coin, E pluribus numen up there. So here, and in the year bracket, it says random year, which means it could be last year, the year before, So the year, it's not important. They've been making these coins for 15 or 20 years, something like that. So you get any year, but they're in, essentially mint condition, untouched by human hands, uncirculated. Condition. Polished and uncirculated. So we would be a BU coin. B as in boy. B. And U as in uncirculated. So there you go. So my suggestion would be, because you can buy and sell these coins. It's no problem. It may take you a week, to turn it back into money, because you got to send it to wherever you're going to, or you can hand it over to, a local gold guy, store, if they accept gold coins, and they'll count out cash for you right there on the spot. So, and then the nice thing about a coin is you don't have to worry about an essay where they go, where you come in with a block, and then they said, I had a friend of mine, he had these big, bars of silver. It was like 8 pounds of silver, and 16 ounces, in a pound, and he had like 8, so he had like 64 or whatever. There's a lot of ounces of silver. And he had to take it down to some place in Miami where they would assay it, weigh it. There's a physical chemistry routine on determining the purity and the weight of the silver, and then they multiply that out, and they come up with a number and charge a fee, a couple $100. So then they give you the cash, right then and there. They have, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 worth of cash on hand. Then all of a sudden that gold bar is in the hands of somebody else. But it requires, a procedure. So you got to wait for somebody to do that, and say, well, I can get to it, and I mean, there are professional companies that deal with that. They say, oh, yeah, we signed that up for Thursday. So you're here Monday, 4 days. Then we can get to it for 4 days. And then it takes them, doesn't take them long. It takes, I've done this myself as a biochemist. You get the specific gravity of the silver, and to find out what the volume is, the easiest way is to submerge it in a tank of water. So you clean up the silver, make sure it's clean, and then you dip it into a known volume of water, and then you find out how much water is displaced by submerging this thing in a big cylinder of water. So the water that spills over is the volume, of the silver. And you weigh it as you're dunking it. So, it's like an experiment, I'm telling you. So you weigh it. It doesn't float, but there's, the weight is different than if you have it hanging here up in the air. So you weigh it, and you know what the volume is, and that tells you the purity of the silver. Anyway, you got to go through that process. But in theory, that's what they're doing. But if you have the coins back there. But if you got, this is a silver coin, but if you got coins and you got a cylinder, 20 of them, 20 times 25 is $500. So if you got 20 of these in a cylinder, that's $500. They don't have to assay it. All they got to do is open up the cylinder. I have a whole bunch of cylinders there in my little safe over there, and just in case everything goes to shit, I've got some precious metals hanging around so we can buy milk or whatever. Yeah, I mean, who the hell knows? I mean, the U.S. government. I have friends of mine that work in high places in certain areas of the government, and I'm not talking about the president or the vice president, but some other people that are in relatively high places. They're not political people, but they're in the government, and they say, hey, we got, you have green money. They have billions of dollars in a warehouse, wrapped in warehouses, in a number of warehouses all over, like in Los Angeles, the Federal Reserve Bank of Los Angeles. So Federal Reserve Bank of New York, Federal Reserve Bank of, there's 12 Federal Reserve banks. Well, each one of them has got a whole goddamn warehouse full of blue money. Literally blue money with all kind, it's just like if you get new dollar bills and they have all the the things in the bill to make it safe, and it's printed, on printed, engraved almost on a very special kind of paper, Well, they've manufactured billions. I'm telling you, billions of dollars of blue, like red, green, blue dollars. It's blue ink, blue and white instead of the green and white. You got some color of green when you open up your wallet and you see that. I got a couple of hair things on there, holding that together. But yeah, here's our money. It's basically shades of green with some red on there with the numbers, and it's not. And it's got this special thing. You hold it up to the light, and it's got all that stuff. Excuse me. But it's blue, as opposed to green. So when our government goes completely bipsic, and they can't pay their their dollar, they can't pay their bills, and the treasury bills, become worthless, and the country goes bankrupt. So now you have that can happen. The amount of money that this guy has just borrowed, it's every president. But it's about 5 or 6, I think 6 or more $1 trillion worth of money that this administration has spent. You can't even tell where it went. Jeez. Over 6 trillion. Well, so we're getting to the point. We're right on people don't get it. And all of a sudden, oh shit, what happened? Well, you're not paying attention. I've told, I teach at FAU, and I've been teaching all my life, basically. Either classes in banking or classes in this or that, computer science, digital photography. I wrote a book in digital photography, and then I wrote a second edition of the book, and it was printed by Pearson Education, which is, the largest educational publisher in the United States. So it's not the Okefenokee Press, it's Pearson Education. And you can look that up, and it is huge. Yeah, it's the best there is. So thanks to John Harlan, who introduced me to the educational representative of Pearson. They call that person an acquisitions official. And they look at your manuscript, and they decide if it's unique with regard to all the other books that they've ever published, or any of their affiliates, like the DK Press in London, whatever. I can write a book, but I don't know about publishing. But anyway, John Harlan introduced me at 10 o'clock in the morning to the acquisitions officer in the southeast region of Pearson Education. So that's serious business. Well, John Harlan has been a professor at FAU, for 4 or 5 years. He came from Illinois. Everybody came from somewhere, I guess. So I got to know him, met him outside of FAU. He's in the College of Science, the Charles E. Schmidt College of Science. And I got to meet him, and and what do you do? And I do this and that. And I was a banker for 30 years. And I got an idea. So I told him all about my idea. He said, "Hey, that's a pretty good idea. So, do you have something you can show me?" And I said, "Sure." He said, we need people that can teach, adults, people, want to, you got a world of knowledge about all kinds of technology stuff, which is really exciting from the perspective of me being, a very senior official in the College of Science. One of the guys I really like is the dean of the college. I said, "Hey, that's the top guy, right?" And he said, "Yep." He said, "I've got him, and I got 4 or 5 other people. They're like 19 officials that can decide if you can teach here as an adjunct professor, meaning you can do whatever you do, but then you teach at FAU." Whenever the college decides, it wants you for some reason, or you want to do a class or a whole series of classes or whatever you want to do, and we'll pay you. And they came up with a formula, and he said, "This is of the highest hourly rate any professor gets in this institution, and I know what they get, and I'm the highest. You'd be the second highest." I said, "Hey, that's a good thing." So I showed him my manuscript and everything, and he said, "I'll get the acquisitions officer in here. I'll set up an appointment." So he calls me up, says, "Hey, I got an appointment with with Pearson. They're gonna come into my office at 10 o'clock in the morning." So, to get into a campus and you go up and down elevators and, parking lots and parking fees and, all this crap, just to get, into FAU and be in a specific building number, third floor, room 325, whatever it is. That's, so it takes, 20 minutes just to get to where you want to be. Once you get in, you get by the security guard, because you got to park your car up at top, it's bing bang. It's, 15, 20 minutes later, okay, well, I finally got here. So if you're going to end up in class on time, you better leave yourself a half hour, not counting the traffic to get to the school. Anyway, so the acquisition officer had to go through all that rigmarole to get to the third floor of building 54, I think it is. I'm in a College of Science, and 10 o'clock going to meet, and you're going to be in my office, and they know it, and that's why they're going to be here. And I'm going to show them something too, but you're the main act. I said, "Hey, cool. You got any problem with that?" I said, "No, let's do it." So I created instead of a manuscript, you got papers in a folder, and then you have a big clip on there, and you fold the manuscript, and then you got notes on the page. I said, bullshit. I'm going to print this thing exactly the way I want it. I'm going to produce a prototype of the book, and I'm going to have it bound the way I want it bound, and I'll go to whoever I need to go to have 3 copies. I think I made 4 copies of this book that I wrote. It took 700. I tracked it. It took 700 hours to write the book from beginning to end. So you can divide that up by 3 hours a day. You can divide that. It takes a couple of years to write a book. Unless you're going to do it full time, then it maybe take you a year, maybe 9 months. But it's a lot of stuff: lighting, words, writing, graphics. Making sure you got things spelled right. My mother was an English scholar, so I had to go through all this rigmarole as a 10-year-old. I used to get a lot of stuff because I always used to say in head. You know, when you're going to get ahead of somebody, I said in head instead of ahead. And I don't know how I got stuck on that, but it took me several years to stop. My mother said, "Stop saying in head, it is ahead." And I forget how the language was that she told me that, but you know, it was generally in English. It could be in French. We talked several languages, you know, when we were young, little whippersnappers. We talked French, we talked English, little tiny bit of Latin. My mother was fluent in 5 languages, and we as kids were fluent in 2.5 languages, but two for sure. And it was French and English. And since we're in the United States, it was mostly English, but we were solid, you know, the language, the international language before English was French. In other words, everybody, you know, because of the European Empire and all that kind of crap, French was that was the language to know. You know, the Romans come along and all this kind of stuff, but so if you were bilingual, you were French and something else. But English became the international language, you know, after French was the international language. I don't know when that switched over. You know, whether it was World War I or, you know, in the 1800s, you know, 2000. I would think it's somewhere in the very early 1900s as a guess. But anyway, so because of all that language stuff, I was a precision scientific writer, if I'll say it that way. That's probably another way of saying it. But I was a scientific writer as opposed to a prose writer. You know, I didn't write novels. I wrote technical articles about whatever the heck I was writing about. I wrote, you know, what else would you say? When I was in the banking world, I wrote credit policy manuals, which a bank has to have, a credit policy. The credit policy is made up of, you know, all this chapter and verse. And, you know, that could be 50 pages, it could be 200 pages, you know, 300 pages. You keep adding sections to it when you come up with a new kind of a credit that you want to extend to somebody. So if you want to make, you know, for example, you want to make a car loan, this is how you know, this is our policy on car loans. We don't want to go past, you know, making this up, 80%, you know, loan to value, cost. Whatever you're paying for the car is what it's worth, right? I don't care what the dealer, you know, sticker on there is. It's how much did you pay for it? That's what it's actually worth. And we'll go 85% of what you actually negotiated. And you write a check for the 15%. And 85 plus 15 is 100. And bingo, you can buy the car. And then you got a car loan for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. But the term, you know, all these specifications about the loan is part of the credit policy. So it takes a lot of paperwork. You know, when there are periods of time where the credit policy gets, you know, massaged. And, you know, I was the chief credit policy officer of a couple of banks. That's a very senior, you know, you never really get to talk to this guy. He's in the, you know, he's somewhere in the back, you know, in the ivory, I don't know what. But it's a very high-level person. When the federal regulators come in to examine a bank, which they examine the bank at least every 18 months, or more often, depending on the condition of the bank. So, I would always have a nice meeting with the regulators, and they go through the manual, and I mean, they go through it with a fine-tooth comb, and they got two or three geniuses that mark it up and highlight and red and all this stuff. And I said, holy mackerel, what are we going to do, rewrite the whole loan policy? So, no, we just have a few things we're going to talk to you about. And I said, they got my credit policy thing, and they got it pages dog-eared and all this stuff, because they copy it, 6 times. And they got the 6 of their geniuses going through every sentence of the policy. And they go through, they don't necessarily go through the whole policy every time they visit, but they look through it all, and then they decide what to focus on. Well, we're focusing on, Section 7 in real estate loans, for example. So it could be a real estate loan. It could be, a home loan. It could be a loan on an office building. So you got, commercial buildings, but you got different kind of commercial buildings. You got office buildings. You got hotel buildings. You got parking lots. How about that? That's new. People, parking lots have become very valuable. Now you got multi-level parking lots, and what's the credit policy situation on a parking lot? The guy's got a 5-story garage that holds 325 cars, and it's got the gates and swapper-doppers, and this is the income and the expense and the age, condition, compliance with codes, and there's all kinds of. So every one of these topics has all kinds of pages of things that determine if someone were to walk in the door and want a loan on that, or if they come into the financial institution and say, what is this worth? So you have an asset liability policy manual that tells you how to evaluate these different assets. Anyway, so there are lots of things that banks do, for little customers, big customers, and everybody in between. So you gotta write. So I wrote a lot of, as I worked for a couple of banks where their credit policy was terrible. It was relatively incomplete, and the lenders, they just wing it, and they say, all right, that's close enough to this, it's like Jell-O. Everything's Jell-O. I don't like Jell-O. When you put it down, it's quivers. It's nervous. So, put a nice little stack of gold coins, and that's real stuff. Go right back to the days of the pharaohs. 3,000 years, gold was had a value. And you see the pharaohs, they're decorated in gold, and they have gold helmets, they have gold, everything you can do gold with on the human body, they had it made. And all kinds of vases and, stuff. It'd all be gold, It was inert, so it wouldn't louse up. If you had a gold vessel that held Sauvignon Blanc, the container itself wouldn't react with any components of the wine, for example. Well, there's certain kind of woods, certain kind of oak woods, high, dense, very dense woods that are used in the wine business, to store wine, age wine, all that stuff. So, but gold is inert. Platinum is the most inert element that we have on this planet that we currently consider inert. Gold is next in line to that, and silver is next in line to that. Silver is not considered inert. You leave it out in the open and it tarnishes. Well, what's tarnish? That means that the atmosphere, or it got dunked in water, or dunked in a river, or dunked in whatever. But let's just assume that it's in the atmosphere, and someone lights up a cigarette, for example. So the match, all kinds of sulfur stuff, end up floating around in the atmosphere. You can smell matches when someone strikes a match, depending on if it's a stick match or a slider thing. These matches that has a tip on it where you can flick it on anything, a piece of stone or hard, and it will light up. Well, when that lights up, it flares up, and that increases the temperature of the tip of the wooden match, and it starts to burn. And you use that in your hand to light your cigarette. Well, those vapors that get that enter into the atmosphere with the striking at a match, that'll tarnish silver big time, because it's got sulfur kind of compounds in those gases, and they'll come in and they'll attach, it floats around, and anything silver that's in the room, in the vessel, in the cabin, in the whatever, if it comes in contact with silver, it's going to tarnish the silver, which means it turns some shade of nasty gray. Almost, look like this stuff here. So that's why silver is not considered inert. Most people would not store. I don't think they'd store wine in silver. They'd store wine in some kind of a wood, and the same thing goes with certain kinds of alcoholic things. Now they use silver for distillation because it's relatively inert. It's very conductive. Temperature conductive. It's very conductive electrically also. There's a lot of silver wires, a lot of gold wires, gold contacts. Gold is usually applied to contacts when you plug things in, because it won't oxidize with the atmosphere. So the plugging and unplugging of devices. So you'll computer components are put onto a circuit board. They may have gold contacts on each of those little prongs to make sure it makes a good electrical connection into the circuit board, or else this chip, with all that programming that's in the chip, won't operate properly or operate at all on the circuit board. So that's why of gold-tipped contacts. Anyway, there's gold. So through time, so you have a circular, there you go, a circular blank of gold that's about this size and not quite this thick. I have it in there, and I got to open it up. I don't want to bother. Next time we do this, I'll whip out a gold coin, and you can see. I strictly buy these, and I bought these and I've sold these, so I'm familiar with liquidating precious metals, and I'm particularly like this company, APMEX. 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 Which, let's add that to the cart. Let's view the cart. Alright, so now I got my favorite silver. So $1,000 worth, $947 would be 4 20-coin things of silver dollars. Like this, pure silver. No numismatic value. All They are U.S. currency. They're silver dollars with a denomination on it. They'd be minted, 2021, 2022, 2023, whatever. Could be variable dates, could be the same year. You don't care about dates. You just want to make sure they're pure, they're from a good source, so you don't have to worry about that. You don't want Confederate coins and all that kind of crap. Anyway, so I figure, these are $1,000. Every time you come up with a spare $1,000, go buy the silver. I'd rather save $2,000 than buy the gold coin. So each coin has a, so the price of gold is roughly $2,000. Spot gold price, and on this website, I'm on their website now. There it is. Whoops. Spot gold price right now is, and they'll guarantee this when you sell something, 2,000 or buying, it's $2,018 an ounce. It's up $16 today. Here is let's take a 1 year chart. You see, look at that. It's been as low as $16.35, and it's up here around $2,000 a coin now. So it's up, $350 per coin. Let's look at a 5 year graph. You can see that, yeah. So as low as $1,100, and as high as $2,000. So it's if you bought this 5 year, if you bought this 4 years ago, you would have multiplied your money you'd have doubled your money in 4 years. That's a pretty good investment. What goes up comes down, but this is all the years that they've got on record. And we can go right and see. You see all these numbers changing. So I'm sliding my hand. So that's $260 an ounce in the year 1999, June 15th, at 12 a.m. It's always 12 a.m. It's the closing price of the silver, and you can see it was in the $250, $260 an ounce in the year 2001, and up over here it got up as high as $1,800 an ounce in 2011, and then you go back up and then it went down, and it's worth $1,000 an ounce, and now it's back up to $2,000 an ounce. So let's go back to the 1 year scenario. And anyway, so the metal went down to roughly $1,600 an ounce in the middle of the year, 6 months ago. I believe that's how this is. Well, we can. I can just put my finger on it. Boy, it went down to $16.36 an ounce on September 26th of 2022. Then it went up, and it went back down. So it's probably Fed stuff. They raise rates, they cut rates. They always screw around with things. And they think they're saving something, but they're, the Feds basically hurt. You heard about a couple of these banks that got closed. Silicon Valley Bank, it was $209 billion bank. It's a big bank. And a lot of people had, Southern California, I mean, it's a big bank. Oh, $200 billion. God, that's like almost it's not $1 trillion bank, but goddamn it, $209 billion? Phew, that's a big bank. Yep. Well, so they buy, every night they're buying $100, $200 million of something. They got to do something with this money they have. It was, they're in the Southern California, so it's you would think it's a capital surplus area. Meaning there's growth, and the people moving in to supply that growth, and employees, everything's, growing. So that's considered, South Florida, capital surplus area, big time. I was always selling into the Fed. I did it for a little bit. But Jill Thackert, who was the head of the Treasury Department in Royal Trust, which is, big. We're a $1 billion bank 20 years ago. So his big, 20 years ago. So we had to do everything that the huge banks had to do. We just did it a little better. I mean, a lot better. But, when Jill and I have lunch, and, we're buddies, so we talk to each other almost every day about what's going on, and, the this and that. I mean, she'd always be yakking about something because, these spot things that come up, that are discussed in the financial markets, it changes prices of things. It's amazing, and, lawsuits and, the Fed and what they do, and they're going to raise, the rate a quarter or an eighth or a 16th, and how it affects the financial markets. And, that affects, how much money comes into checking accounts, how much goes out, and, you got this flux. And hopefully it's always a little bit bigger at the end of every month, or whatever period you're looking at. Let's just say monthly. So, since Jill and I were buddies, I got to know a lot about what changes, the mood of people and things. And she's got, at 4 o'clock every day, every bank that's an FDIC insured bank, which is every bank, has to close out their books at 4 o'clock every day. Companies, public companies, they got to produce a quarterly financial statement every quarter, every 13 weeks. The banks have to do it every night by 4 o'clock, exactly. So you wonder why, the bank says, it's after 2 o'clock, we can't take it. Because that's going to screw up, we're trying to assemble a balance sheet, the P&L on a balance sheet that has to get sent to the Fed by 4. So we can't have this client activity, as wholesome as it is, we can't have it coming into the bank, at 3:30. When the books are supposed to be shut down at 4. Because at 3:30, we're all looking at this stuff, or somebody's looking at it, to make sure it's okay before you push the button to send it to the Fed. Everything's, electronic. You have all these computers and Fed machines, and, jeez. So, anyway, bottom line is, when we created a balance sheet, we'd see, look, we got all this cash. You guys in the lending department, you closing any loans today? Well, I got a $10 million here and a $16 million up there, but other than those $26 million, nothing else is closing today. Well, she'd take that into account because that's money going out. Well, you got to have, the money to have it go out. I mean, there's a lot behind that, but that's as simple as it gets. And she'd say, okay, well, we won't count on that, so... But I still got 128 million besides that, so we'll sell it to the Fed. So she calls the Fed. They push the button on the financial statement, so everyone's up to speed on that. Every bank does it, and there are banks over here that need money, and there are banks down here that sell money. So we're always selling to the Fed. I don't think we've ever bought from the Fed. We meaning the Royal Trust crowd. So we'd sell. Yeah, the Fed said, all right, we'll give you 3/8. And, so the overnight, we'd get the overnight rate of whatever the price of the money is, plus an eighth, let's just say 1/8. 0.165. That's an eighth. 8 times 0.165 is 1.0. Anyway, so 125, 125. Excuse me. So how do we know that? So when you get an eighth, you say, doesn't say 1 divided by 8 equals what? Oops, 1.125. So if the discount rate was 2, and they're going to give us 0.125, then we get 2.125. All right, we're going to give you 105 million tonight. And that's it. So every night, you either have money or you need money. Or you don't need to do anything. I don't think we've ever had a day that we didn't do anything. We could do nothing, but then the money be sitting in your vault, earning nothing. Well, that's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to make money for your shareholders. So we employ the money with feds, so we're selling. We don't get stuck in the interest rate squeeze so much because we're always selling into the Fed. We're not buying it. So we're not buying, 1 and 2 year treasuries. And, if it's an increasing interest rate market, you're fine. But if you're in a decreasing interest rate market, you have to do different things for different things. So, but our Fed right now has been raising rates like crazy. And when they raise their rates a half a point, that's like, or 3/4 of a point. Are you kidding? I mean, that is, and they did it like 3 or 4 months in a row. 3/4, 3/4, 3/4. Well, people that have, Valley Bank says, holy shit, we've got 5-year maturity T-bills, which is supposed to be like cash. I just lost 40% of the value because these schmucks raised their rate 3%, in like 3-4 months. 4 months to raise 3%. You kidding? That's 300 basis points. We were killed. And they didn't hedge it. So you can buy an insurance premium, so to speak, which is called a hedge. And you go to a hedge fund, and they'll place the hedge for you for a premium. And it might be, it wouldn't be a quarter. It would be, 1/16, 2/16, 3/16. In this market, it'd be like 3/16. Well, Valley Bank didn't want to pay that premium. So when they had to sell their treasuries, they didn't have the hedge to make up the difference between what par they have in the money and what their losses are because of, if you got $100 million instrument and, it's a big bank, so it's very common to have $100 million increments. If you got a lot of people taking money out of the bank because of rumors, this and that, or because they're just at the same time or similar time, they need the money because they're building, room additions, whatever the heck they're doing. And, some days a lot of money runs out of the bank. We always had more money coming in than going out. So we were considered a capital surplus market. But, some banks, particularly in the blue states, you call them blue states today, and then, in the central, north, Buffalo, New York, you just pick Chicago, money's going out of there like crazy. People are moving out like crazy. Because, their taxes are killing them. In some of these blue states, they pay 10 to 13% tax. So when you do your TurboTax, saying, "Oh, what state do you live in?" I put Florida, so what? And then you move on to the whole next section because there's no state tax in Florida. I got stuck on a loop in the last couple of minutes of dealing with TurboTax because I couldn't get the system. The system was slower than I was trying to move it, and I think that's what happened. Anyway, so. But if you live in a blue state and you're doing your tax return, all of a sudden, oh, you got to go through here and, we have it like in Pennsylvania, I think it's a 10% tax. So, my God, you get your adjusted gross income, bam! Now you got to write a check for what? Another $17,000? Holy crap. That's a big piece out of your butt. Now, if you're a payroll person, it comes out of your weekly paycheck. But it comes out, so here's your gross amount, and then you pay for this, and you pay for that, and you pay Fed tax, and you pay state tax. Medical. And then you have one, so you got $4,000 going in for your pay period, and then you end up with $3,500 because these different entities get a piece of your fanny, and they save the taxes for you. So when you do your tax return, you say, "Aha, he's he's already got some serious contributions into the payment of his tax. Matter of fact, you're going to get a refund because you paid in more than your actual tax liability is." Anyway, the state laws usually follow the Fed laws, but they don't necessarily. So, and the tax rate is a fixed 10%, usually for state tax. I wish the tax rates in the United States is a variable. The bigger your income, the bigger piece they take, up to 39.6%. And I don't know why they picked that number. There is a reason. I've never asked it. It's not worth typing the question. But, today in the world of, Google and, all these search engines, you can Google that and you'll get an answer. All right, I'm going to Google it when we're done. Anyway, so I've been yakking around here for 1 hour and 28 minutes with this. Let me just see how. And this MacBook Air is magical. I'm putting my hands around this aluminum case that the computer sits in. I'm just feeling for heat. And it's the processors just don't run hot. Now, I've got memory up to kazoo. So maybe my prior computer that I had, this is an upgrade, it's a MacBook Air. I've got, it's the M2 chip as opposed to the M1 chip or the Intel chip. The M2 chip is apparently, really does a good job. And I've supported that with 24 gigabytes of memory. And then I have 1,000 gigabytes, 1024 gigabytes of storage, a tetrabyte. They call it a T-byte. And that's what they call it. So I've got, an extremely fast M2 processor backed up with 64 gigabytes of memory. So when the programmer says, I need a piece here, I need a piece here, and they allocate the blocks of the memory, that's what happens when they do the code. I used to be a coder. So they've got 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 blocks, chunks that they need to store stuff to make my thing work here. And to show the banner going across and, all this stuff. We go back here and switch it back. Let's get rid of him. So we're done with show and tell. There we go. So we'll close out of that. So we don't want to stay live with them. All right. So here we are. I don't have I turned off the front-facing camera. There's a camera right here. If I were to look real close with the light, there's a little dit where they have a little tiny camera that is in there. It's right smack in the middle there. And if it was available, there'd be a little green dot all the way over in this corner. But there's no green dot, and I have shut down the middle camera. I'm a little camera shy. It doesn't, I don't have the ego. I don't care. I want to have a little. You can see a little sideways, whatever. I'm not big on showing my FaceTime. That's not what it's all about. It's all about you, actually. So, and I like to get into whatever this is like quiet conversation, like you're sitting across the way. Like you're just sitting right over there. Right over on the other side of this thing. Right over there. Marilyn sits right over there. But she's not here right now. So I'm pretending you're right there. So the thousands of you that are here, you're right there. And we're talking about what we're now talking about. But since I'm talking to myself, you could call in, there's a number right up there, 416-1100. Yep, there you go. You can call right in. I've got it checked off so the call this thing would ring right here. And I would answer the call, and there would be a live call right here, and they could hear you, I could hear you right through. There'd be no echo. We've got echo correction, I think is the right term. There's echo correction in the algorithm for the audio coming through. So you don't want the live broadcast to interfere with what the caller hears, because it would be about 20 milliseconds of an echo, which is like, it's like bang bang. You get, it's just, you have this echo, and it's loud. It's not background echo; it's serious echo. So we have to suppress that. And so this whole software package corrects for that. You have to check a box, and the screen's up there for everything, and it's unbelievable. If you're wondering what the cylinder is right here, it's got my name and my, the prescription number and the barcode and Jimmy Wilson. And on top, it says 7 degrees centigrade. You can see that. 7 degrees centigrade. So this is my container for insulin. You can see there's a needle and a Novolog. I use a pen injection device. So I screw on a needle every time. And it's got basically a 1/4-inch 32 gauge needle, which is super fine. I mean, it's 2 human hairs in diameter. Can you imagine? 2 human hairs. And in between that is, an opening so that the insulin can get through it. And you just stick it in somewhere. And, you don't need to, squeeze your fatty tissue to make sure you have enough fatty. You just stick it in there because it's such a fine and a short needle. It won't get into your muscles. It won't get into your arteries and veins. I mean, you don't want to aim it at your arteries here, like in the arm where they go for putting in a IV, or I got a lot of nice veins on the surface of my hands. No, you don't want to do that. You want the insulin in the fatty tissue because it's designed to get absorbed into your body through your fat tissue that is, in your midriff, in your thighs. I don't think I'd like to stick that in my leg, but some people that wear shorts, they just shove it and stick it right into a fatty portion of their thighs. No, thank you. I'd rather stick it into my fatty tissue around my stomach area. But, you could stick it into the fatty tissue on the bottom part of your arm. No. When I was in the hospital in December with bronchitis, and I didn't know whether it was COVID or not. So just to be on the safe side, they tested me. No, I don't have that. But I have something else, and it's creating bronchitis. And at my age, I whipped myself into the hospital. I feel like, I can't get better from this. And I don't have, medicines and things to, you can buy Sudafed and, certain things. But if you feel like whatever you're infected with is taking over your body, then you go to the hospital. Let them pull with it. And, and I walked out of there and I was fresh as a whistle. But I was in there for like 4 days. Anyway, one of the things they found out is that I got a blood sugar issue. 7 degrees centigrade. You need to keep this, the insulin, around 40 degrees, 37 degrees Fahrenheit, somewhere in that range. 2 to 7 degrees centigrade is perfect. Now the rule is with Novolog insulin is that the 3 millimeter cylinders that you get a 5-cylinder pack, and that depending on what your injections are, is take you through a month. For me, it's about a month. It should be. So I've gone through 1.5. And I've got 5 in that container. So, I've got enough going on here. I asked the pharmacist, I said, if I put an order in, I can pick it up in 2 days, right? And he said, yep. You don't have to get it trucked in from from Sweden or anything, do you? Nope. So I keep my pen in this. If I go out of my office for lunch, I need to take like three units before lunch. So I'd probably do it here. But if you're out, you're out, you can't walk around with a refrigerator on your back, right? So you got a cylinder. Oops, 7 degrees centigrade. So I keep it in there even though I don't need to, because Novolog says if you start with the pen and you got the cartridge in there, I'm ready for a dose, so I may as well take it out. I'm not going to show you. It's no big deal, but it's, something. So I've got this kind of thing. See that right there? That comes out of my freezer. And then I've got this foam padded thing that would surround a can, like if you had a can of soda. And I slip the pen right down in there, and it brings that right down to 2, 3, 4 degrees centigrade, Celsius, whatever. So here's the pen. Nice little guy. Novo Pen Echo Plus, which means that it can transmit to your phone every time you take a dose. And I can look at this, push this thing in, and I can see, you can see some numbers on there. It's all out of focus, sorry. Oops, we don't need a light. If I can take over the autofocus. If you look at the brochure, anyway. So this will tell you what your last dose was. And it says 3. So I took 3 units. Now there's no needle on here. So here's, you know, you screw on the needle. I'll do that because I'm gonna take a shot here in a second. So this is all sealed up. There's a needle in here. Needle every time you use it. I got a box, 100 needles. So on here is a thingy with a needle in there, and that's going to get stuck right in there. There's one of those foam pads or whatever. I don't know what that's made of, but every time you change the needle, you screw this cap right on top. This is a threaded thing. And here's the cartridge with the insulin in it. You can see that. And I'm about halfway through this 3mm thingy. So next week I'll have to get another one of these out of the main refrigerator. I don't have to run, you know, it's whole 300 units. So you just put that on there and screw that on, and then you pull this cap off, and so now I'm there, and buried in here is a needle. And it's a very fun, you can't probably see it. I can see it in my screen here, but I don't know if it'll transmit. But there it is. So we're going to put this little needle cap back on here. If I can get it on. There we go. Got it. Push that right down. Bingo. I can't put that on there. And then this goes right on top. And there's my pen. And it's got a little clip. You can put it in your shirt pocket, inside shirt pocket, whatever you want. And that's it. Needles are, 10 cents a piece. No big deal. You turn this knob. Let's see what the maximum dose is. Lots. 30 units is the maximum dose. I'm in the 2 to 3 range. Yeah, change that. So when you're using this, they say keep it under 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay? No higher than 80. So you can keep it in your pocket. And you walk around all your air-conditioned places and all that, but they don't want the insulin higher than, 80, 82 degrees. So I'm going to leave this out in here right now because I'm going to take a little shot. And in the meantime, we'll just close this baby back up. See, now it raised up to 20 degrees centigrade. See, now it's 19. So it'll drop because that blue thing in there is probably 2 degrees Celsius. You get used to Celsius because they don't have a Fahrenheit version of this thing. You got a Netflix or, $50. It's a very high quality double-walled vacuum stainless steel refrigeration bottle. Don't microwave. Hand wash only. It is a stainless steel vacuum mug. And a screw top with a temperature thing on there, which is very handy. For the heck of it, I taped on my prescription with Scotch tape, big, thick packing tape, so that if for some reason or other I need my prescription, I can see it right on there. Oh my God, I ran out. You know, travel. You always get a lot of stuff if you travel. We're going to go to Fort Myers, so I'm going to make sure I got a good cylinder there, and I got my what do you call it? They have another one of these that in the cap is a thermoelectric chiller. You know, like you get in some of these 6-pack, 12-pack, 18-pack things that can cool down beer and keep it cold. So that'll it has a battery in there, not this one, but that's what I'm talking about. And it'll actually keep this thing cold. So there's an interior metal thing, and then you got this fan type deal on top, and that keeps your insulin cold when you're traveling, like when you're in a car and everything. And then when it doesn't run, it's a double-walled cylinder thing, and it protects your stuff. We're going to Fort Myers next week. I'll probably get one of those and try it out on our trip. So I'll go with 2 pens. Always go with 2. In case one breaks, you got a backup. You don't want to say, "Oh my God, the thing's broken now." My blood sugar is going to go freaking crazy. And when you're using this insulin, you gotta keep your blood sugar, where it belongs, or else stuff starts falling off. I mean, it's a relatively serious thing. I mean, there are a lot of people that are. I'm a 142. When you see it peaked over 200, it's a devil of a thing. I have a graphic here that'll show me how much in range. That's the graph right there. So 11% of the time, I'm over range. I'm 180. I'm over 180 and under 250 in that range. And never in this period of time, which is last week, last 14 days, I was 16% over range. It's always over. For 30 days, I'm 10% over range. That's a tough one. And for the last 90 days, I'm 5 days short of 90 days. 83, 16, and 1. I remember that time. It went up. What are you going to do? You got to take your shot before a meal, period. If you take it after your meal, the blood sugar from the meal goes in first, and then the insulin's chasing it. So it's better to give your body a break. Put the insulin in first. It takes about 20 minutes to get absorbed into your bloodstream. And the insulin goes into the red blood cells and makes the red blood cells capable of taking in sugar so that you can actually consume the sugar instead of your body blocking it. And that's, the insulin's a thing that's normally made in your body, and it affects your red blood cells so that the sugar can get absorbed into the red blood cells, which gives you energy into your muscles. So if you got all this sugar floating around in your body, but your blood can't deliver it into your muscles, you don't have energy. So that's what the insulin's for. It's and when you get a little older, you for some reason or other, you just don't. Many people just it slows down in the insulin delivery, so your blood sugar goes up. If you don't take care of it, you can go blind. I mean, I had a dog that went blind. She was diabetic. I didn't know it, and it eventually made her blind. And the last year of her life, the dog couldn't see. He knew where he was going. He'd bump off stuff, and he looked forward, and you could tell he doesn't know where he's at exactly. But he knew where, because it doesn't like a switch. You basically gradually go blind instead of all of a sudden. Anyway, so my mocha latte, one of those dogs was blind. But last year of his life, her life. All right, so, oh my God, 1 hour and 51 minutes. We're going here. Time to go. So we're going to say goodbye, and we're going to wish you a good. There's a thing here that'll let me close this in. There it is. So we'll see you probably tomorrow. Everything's kind of set up. The hardware is all working. The computer here is like perfect, and so we're going to finish up, and we'll see you tomorrow. Sometime between 11 and 2. There's going to be a time where I'm going to have a time, and then I'm going to do it at that time. It might be at 11 o'clock every day. So I'm going to try to see you at 11 o'clock tomorrow. And see how that goes. And then it'll be 11 o'clock the next day, maybe. So let's try it, and we'll see you tomorrow if anyone's, you got people asking questions. And I'll try to give the answers. In the meantime, you have a great day.